Thanks for listening to Investor Insights, a behind-the-scenes look at investing with Fund That Flip. This series provides an insider's look at how our business works and answers your frequently asked questions so that you can make better investment decisions with your hard-earned capital. Now, our founder and CEO, Matt Rodak.
Welcome to this episode of Investor Insights. I'm Matt Rodak, founder and CEO of Fund That Flip. And on today's show, we have joining us Jon Andrews, our Senior Vice President of Business Development, and Scott Eilerman, our Underwriting Team Lead. Between the two of them, they've underwritten and originated well over 2,000 projects. So welcome to the show, gents.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
So of particular interest today, we will be talking about a new project recently opened for investment in Raleigh, North Carolina. A very fast-growing area for both jobs and population growth. And this project is a little bit different than our normal fix and flip or just standalone single-family new build. So thought we'd have the guys on to the show to talk through what it is and why we're excited to fund it. So, Jon, let's start with you. Maybe just give everyone a sense and a little bit of a background on how this deal came to us and a little bit of a backdrop on the borrower.
Yeah, Matt, happy to do so. So actually a little bit of a long story there. So we've known of the borrowers, the developers for some time. They're prominent in the Raleigh area as a home builder and real estate developer, and also as a real estate coach. So we actually know some of the clients that have kind of enlisted their services in terms of coaching them through development projects, and had never had an opportunity to work with them. Through a very good customer of ours, a great client, highest kind of number of unit client in Columbus, Ohio. And then the same in Raleigh. Both of them, each kind of at the same time, had reached out to me and just kind of said, hey, would you do a project that looks like this? And they started to articulate this, kind of 12-unit townhome new development project. And, I told them both yes and asked them what they were thinking. They said, well, it's not mine, it's for a friend of mine. And they're looking for a lender that understands this type of product and is capable. So I said, yeah, be happy to tee up the introduction. And when they did, found out it was this same group out of Raleigh that we've known of for a period of time. And we had done a deal for one of their partners and since done a couple more. So went down, met them, had the opportunity to walk the site, learn a little bit about that area, some historical significance there, which was kind of cool. And see what they were kind of bringing to market. So that's how we heard about it. Two good clients of ours had kind of both mentioned it in unison, and found out later they were on vacation with the developer and got talking about it. Had mentioned to him that we had helped him with some stuff. So that's how it came about.
Referrals. We always love referrals, particularly when they come from good clients. So, and maybe I should have started us here, but just give us a sense of what is the project. You mentioned it's a 12-unit new build. Maybe just provide a little bit more color for what exactly it is we're talking about here.
Yes, it's actually kind of the product that I think is becoming even more popular. It's always been, I shouldn't say always, but over the past few years, certainly we've heard the term suburban to urban, and that kind of urban infill. People think either retirees or millennials, those folks that want the they want a quality to luxury housing option. They want a, single point of entry, not shared kind of common area. They're looking for those townhomes in proximity to either work or kind of culture, dining, entertainment districts. And so you've seen that in a lot of cities. And then I think with COVID, what's been really interesting is, yes, there's been people moving back out to the suburbs and demand there. But I also think that those folks who have been, in really core downtown areas in apartments, that are starting to get the work from home kind of option, and maybe that's somewhat hybrid or more permanent. They don't want to leave the area, but they are looking for that, own space, potentially little backyard, single kind of entry, not shared. And so this product fits that, right? It's a half a mile from downtown Raleigh. You can walk there. You are, you're bordered by a park, and then across the street is a very large cemetery kind of park, nicely landscaped. So you have some of that privacy where you're not on top of one another kind of downtown. You're going to have your own house, garage, parking, et cetera. And so it's 12 townhomes. They're not, shared wall, kind of like one building, stacked on top of each other. And they're, like I said, they're half mile from downtown. So you can walk there in 10, 15 minutes. But the nice thing is, you're also in your own space and a rather large townhome at that. Going to be higher end. They're going to have some cool features there and some views of the city. And like I said, I think, even from a location perspective, if you were to walk just due west towards downtown on the next block in between East Street and Bloodworth, which is, the next block, there's another kind of townhome complex. And the difference is that one is kind of bordered by very commercial buildings and space, a little bit busier road, heavier traffic, kind of 2-lane on either direction. Whereas this one is, like I said, 1 block down the road and it's green space, less traffic. So we, in looking at the location and the proximity to Raleigh, and then the type of product that you had originally asked about, that townhome, it is their own home, it is their own yard, they've got the parking, they're not in the city. We're really excited about it. When we got down there and got to see it and got to lay the land, it made a ton of sense to us as to what they were putting there and kind of the time in which they're bringing it to market.
So somewhat of a best of both worlds. You still got the amenities of a downtown, close proximity. Particularly if you're working down there, you like the bar, restaurant, cultural scene, but also a little bit of space to spread out with a yard and some non-shared walls and something that feels a little bit maybe more suburban. I was checking the location out yesterday when I was preparing for this. It looks really cool, like a great place to be.
Matt, they've all already, so when I had the opportunity to get down there on site, and I know Scott will talk about this in greater detail as we get into kind of the logistics and the development of it. But, it's horizontally developed. So when we went down to look at it, we're getting the lay of the land. And I noticed that the buildings kind of really next door to the property had all looked renovated. And I asked, and our developer actually did that. So they were kind of the rental units. They're kind of middle of the road rental units. And as a way to kind of make their product more aesthetically pleasing, kind of some curb appeal and set the tone for the neighborhood, they went ahead and redid the exterior of those units. So really done a nice job of, setting the stage for the kind of product they're going to bring to market. And, you've seen similar product pop up very nearby. And it's, I didn't know this until I was down there and happened to kind of read it on a plaque, but it was the business district for the African-American population in Raleigh. It was their kind of main street. So pre Great Depression, that was the business district in Raleigh when it was, segregated. So it's kind of neat to see some of those old buildings with the historical significance being repurposed, and you get some of the architecture that you see, frankly, in the Midwest and the Northeast a little bit, as opposed to a lot of these Southeast cities kind of being all brand new and a lot of glass and sterile. This particular street has some of that architecture, and with the landscape and the green space around it, I think it's a really slick location for kind of what the developer has in mind.
Cool. So a borrower that came to us through a referral with some people that we know and trust, a neat project, 12 different single family properties built in a downtown proximity with a pretty interesting story that we like. Scott, I want to flip it over to you now. So from an underwriting perspective, what did you guys and what did your team like about this project?
Yeah, I think the first thing, and John kind of already touched on it, with a project this size, the fact that it's horizontally developed is definitely helpful. There's already infrastructure in place, utilities tied in, things like that. It's graded. So basically the developer doesn't have to spend all that time, that money to do that. And they can basically build vertically.
So it's quote unquote shovel ready by the time we're getting involved, more or less. Okay. Right. Cool.
The second thing that we really liked was just borrower track record. John kind of touched on this as well, but during our due diligence process, we were able to tie back a number of custom home builds that the borrower's done. So good indicator for the success of our project. They also own a pretty sophisticated wholesaling business, where they're doing a lot of volume there every year. And then I don't know if John mentioned this. It is a husband and wife team, and just some additional factors that we factored in were, one, the wife's a realtor, husband's a licensed contractor in the state. So additional experience that we believe will, contribute to the success of the project. So
So one of the things you said there, Scott, was we were able to tie out 8 new home builds. This is a question that, I get a lot when I'm talking to, people on the capital market side of the business. Maybe just talk to us a little bit about how we prove out that experience and why we think it's important that folks have like kind experience.
Yeah. So how we prove it out, typically we can do it a number of ways. We can dive into the public record. If the borrower gives us some addresses, they can provide the closing statements from their closings. A lot of our borrowers do work in LLCs, so we're trying to tie them back to those entities on the public record on those closing statements. We can do it with permits as well. So any kind of way we do it, that's basically the different routes we can go.
Yep.
And then why is that important? Why is like kind experience important? If you've completed a project that's similar to the one that we're underwriting, we believe it's you're not going to have any issues or less issues doing the project at hand. You've done it before. You've probably run into similar issues that you might run into on that project. So just indicates that this one might be more successful as opposed to if we were working with a developer that has done, maybe 10, 15 rehabs last year. They might not know all the ins and outs of new construction, whereas we believe our borrower does.
Yep. Been there, done it before, particularly with new construction in a city, right? Getting through the permitting process and the different things that are required to build a new structure can be different than just putting new kitchen or floors in or what have you. So something that we shouldn't say your team does a really good job of ticking and tying out.
Okay. Hey, Matt, for context, we actually have another project, not dissimilar, a little bit smaller scale for the same developers in partnership with another repeat client of ours in Durham. So not only do we tie out, handful of home builds, I've had the opportunity to see kind of the custom home and spec product they build up in the northern suburbs. They've done a few more than 8. They've probably built a few hundred homes over the years, and it's a family business. It's kind of 2 generations in at this point. And then that infill product you guys have touched on, the like kind experience. They're doing it, have done it, and continue to do it not only in Raleigh but in that kind of research triangle over there in Durham as well. So we have a smaller size project also in the works with them coming to fruition as well in Durham at the moment.
Yep, got it. So let's talk, Scott. Let's talk valuation a little bit. So one of the things that is important when we're doing new construction is understanding, the value of the land, right, in its current kind of developed state, and then ultimately, what do we think the properties are going to be worth once they're finished, and then setting our structure accordingly. So, talk to us a little bit about kind of what we think the land value is and how we structured kind of our first distribution around that, and then also how you guys developed your perspective on the after renovated value or as completed value of these homes.
Yeah. So land value wise, we landed between a $3.5 and $4 million number. It's hard to really nail down. There's a lot of factors that go into that. But worst case 3.5, best case 4 million. The unique part about this one is like we said before, it's horizontally developed. So a lot of the comps that you're going to pull from a land perspective, they're not going to be, especially when you're looking at comps that are going to be developed into this kind of product once the project's complete. So the nice thing about this area is there's a lot of development going on. There's a lot of projects like this one. John mentioned one down the street. So there's some land comps that have sold in the past few years that give us a good indication of what our property's worth. That's also, like I said, the unique part about this one is when those properties sold, they weren't horizontally developed, which we believe adds a significant amount of value because, like we said, it's basically build ready. Don't have to spend time, money into the project to get vertical.
Got it. So we think the land as is today, horizontally developed, not vertically developed, is worth $3.5 million, kind of in a worst case scenario. And the way that we get to that is by comping out other land. And we actually think our land may be a little bit better than the comp set that we used for the land, given that it is kind of it's shovel ready. So 3.5, we think absolute low end, 4 million on the high end. And I'm looking at the site now. We're about 2.9 out on that 3.5. Does that sound right?
Yep, that's correct.
So we've left, call it, $600,000 of equity value in between our attachment point from a debt perspective and where we think the value of the land would trade today if we had to sell it.
Right.
Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Got it. So relatively nice cushion there from a loan to value perspective on the dirt. We like, and maybe I'll hit on this a little bit, we like to keep a little bit more equity cushion on dirt because we do see, right, Scott, higher variability in, like you said, it's tougher to pin land values down because there's larger swings in beta depending on, how people are going to ultimately develop it. So that 600 cushion is enough, we think, to be comfortable with our attachment point, particularly because this project is ready to go vertical here pretty quickly, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
And a lot of times the speculation too is you don't always know what you can build there. The fact that our borrower's pretty much ready to build this and they know what they can build gives us a little bit more confidence in that land value.
Yep. Who knows if the city's going to come back with the density and separation and all that stuff. We got a lot of that worked out already. So we can back into our value effectively. Yep. Which is kind of a good segue into then the ARV, right? So that in some extent informs the land value because it's going to be, right, how much is it going to cost me to build the product that I'm going to build? How much am I going to be able to sell that product for, right, once it's built? And then to some extent, right, that's another backwards way to develop, a value of the land. But let's not get that complex. Maybe that's a master's class for later. What did you guys do in terms of figuring out, what we think these townhomes are going to sell for once they're built up?
Yeah, so there were a handful of comps in the area. Like I said, there's quite a bit of development going on. So a lot of townhome style properties. The nice part about ours that we believe is a premium to those is they're not really townhomes technically. They're not attached. So you don't share a wall with someone, which is definitely a nice part of it. The other thing is a lot of the comps that we use didn't have rooftop decks. Ours will. So again, added value. And then ours were just a little bit larger than some of the other comps. There are a lot of 2-3 bedrooms. Ours are 4 beds, 4 baths. So again, a little bit additional value there. We still kind of landed within the middle of the sales price range for the comps. So potentially some upside to our ARV as well.
So that's another thing that I think we like about this market is it's pretty liquid in terms of finding like-kind trades. And we think, some of the properties that we've used, ours may be a little bit better in terms of some of the things they're coming to market with. One of the things you said raised kind of a question. So because they're not shared walls, are these going to be entitled as fee simple, or is it like there's a condo or a townhome association, or do we have any idea how that's actually going to work since they're not shared walls?
They should be fee simple to my knowledge, even though they're not shared walls.
Yeah, got it. Okay, cool. So maybe last question, I'll throw it up to either one of you guys. What's the plan on building these, right? So we've got, 12 individual units. Are they building them all at once? Are they building them in stages? Do they have any of them pre-sold? Do they expect to start listing them before they're built? Maybe just give a sense around timing for, both the go vertical on all 12, as well as how we think they're going to trend on the outsell.
Yeah, they should be getting vertical on these pretty quickly, working through the final green light stages with the city. The plan is to stagger the bills. They're not going to be 12 in unison, but they do want to be efficient and realize those efficiencies of having the crews on site. So as they're, digging and pouring foundations, kind of one to the next. And then the same thing, probably with a little bit more staggering on really getting vertical with the framing and such is, they want to have a little bit of an element of, fear of missing out. And when those buyers come in and as they are pre-marketing, Matt, and they are pre-marketing these and they do expect to have some pre-sales, and the way the market is right now, we fully expect for them to deliver on that. I think there's tremendous appetite for this type of product, especially in Raleigh. So they're going to get it pre-marketed and they're going to start building it, and they'll stagger, kind of bringing a few at a time to market. And they're going to gauge based on pre-sale activity. Hey, are they building, 2-3 at a time, or does that kind of move to 4 or 5? And, kind of as those pre-sales roll in, that starts to inform kind of how much they hit the accelerator on bringing more to market as their inventory kind of shrinks and so long as the demand remains the way it is today. But we build them pretty quickly.
Yep. Not a lot of inventory pretty much in most of the markets that we work in, but particularly down south in the Carolinas.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I think that's it. So appreciate you jumping on here this morning with me, giving us some additional insight into the project. For those of you listening at home, if you're interested in learning more about this opportunity, head on over to fundthatflip.com, where you can see photos, check out the project plans, and get involved in this particular project if it's something that might fit within your investment criteria. So again, thanks again for listening. Happy investing. Matt at Fund That Flip signing off.